Senator Ricketts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our guests for being here. Ambassador Sullivan, I thought it was interesting you said that Vladimir Putin believes he's at war with the United States, and certainly that is the way he is behaving when you think about what he's done with regard to our nuclear treaties. You know, for example, the 1987 INF Treaty eliminated a range of nuclear weapons, and because he was fielding so many illegal weapons, it forced us to withdraw from that treaty, forced the U.S. to withdraw from that treaty in 2019. And you think about open skies that allowed us and Russia to overfly our countries and with reconnaissance planes and 32 other countries. His non-compliance there forced us to withdraw from that in 2020. Now you've got the New START treaty, and this is one where the Biden administration re-upped it for 5 years, just as it was set to expire in 2021. But Russia has said they are not participating anymore with regard to that. And this makes sense. If Putin again believes he's at war with us, why would he maintain any of these agreements? The Biden administration has made the decision to unconditionally extend the New START treaty. Given, should we continue to be a part of this? What's your thought with regard to what do we do with the New START treaty?
Well, thank you, Senator. I was actually in Moscow and was the person who had to negotiate with the Russians on what should have been a fairly easy extension. Once President Biden had decided at the start of his term in January of 2021 to extend by 5 years the treaty, which is what the Russians wanted, it was actually wound up being much more complicated than that and required some pretty intensive diplomacy with the Russians to actually get it done, because nothing's easy with the Russians. So we extend the treaty. It's now been extended. It can't be extended beyond that. What the Russians have done, what Putin has done, is to the extent that the Russian government had already, before his speech earlier this year, where he announced the suspension of Russia's compliance and or participation in the treaty, Putin announced it. The administration, as I understand it, in fact, I think the administration just released yesterday the numbers for our strategic nuclear weapons, as we should do under the New START treaty, but the Russians won't. I think that's important. I think maintaining our transparency, our continuing commitment to maintaining control over nuclear weapons when he is playing games, and I say games because I don't think he wants a nuclear war with the United States, but he does want to use nuclear blackmail and use one of the few things he has left, which is his nuclear weapons, to try to leverage that.
So Secretary Blinken has said we're going to maintain the restrictions of the New START treaty. What I hear you saying is that you think we should continue to live to those restrictions of the New START treaty?
And the Russians have said they will as well. What they have done, as I understand it, is there are inspections that are required under the treaty. The Russians won't allow us to inspect their facilities, and we're not going to let the Russians in if they won't let us in. They've suspended inspections. They've suspended meetings of what's called a bilateral consultative commission, U.S. experts, Russian experts, to discuss issues under the treaty. But after Putin made that speech, the foreign ministry clarified and said they would continue to adhere to the numerical limitations under the treaty.
But given he cheated on the INF treaty and everything else, how can we possibly trust anything that they would say that they're going to live up to the restrictions? In the
So that was my point in my opening statement. Trust but verify, there's no trust. What we need are, and we do have, and Dr. Kendall Taylor will know more about this than I, technical means to try to verify Russian compliance. What we're missing are the inspections that we're entitled to under the treaty. That's what Putin's denying us. So I agree with you. It's a risk. We're not letting the Russians in. All that the United States is doing now is stating what we're complying with the numerical limits under the treaty. Those are the numbers that the administration released yesterday. It was a one-page document. We are not, because the Russians aren't, having Russians in to inspect our facilities.
So what should be our strategy when it comes to our nuclear strategic force?
Well, first, we need to upgrade to make sure that we are not we are not heading down a path, which I believe we were some years ago, in the hopes that there were going to be fewer and fewer nuclear weapons.
So the efforts right now that the military is taking to upgrade is really important.
I think that's my opinion. I participated in the last administration as deputy secretary in the nuclear posture review. I think that's important now more than ever to maintain U.S. deterrence with an aggressive Russia and more so a rising China, including in its nuclear weapons program.
Great. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.